Yeah. So the first time you go through anything like this, it's always a little unnerving. And just even having a sense of what to expect, what you need to keep track of, how to keep track of it, is going to play a huge role in like putting you at ease a little bit, making sure that um, you know what to look for and how to put it together in a way that's going to help you the best. So some of the things in this course that speak specifically to taxes are, number one, you'll want to know, depending on the type of legal structure you have, right? So depending on what kind of entity you are, let's assume that you are a independent contractor slash self-employed slash solopreneur slash Schedule C filer, right? All these things mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Assuming you are a sole proprietor filing on a Schedule C of your personal tax return, which you will do if you make money in ways that people are not withholding taxes from, right? So if you get 1099 forms, for example, at the end of the year, this is you. So assuming that's the case, you need to know, well, what do I need to keep track of? And so the course is going to answer questions about what to do with those forms as they come to you at the end of the year, those 1099s. It'll speak to whether the income that you may earn that doesn't get reflected on a tax form, is that still reportable by me? And sneak preview, the answer is yes. And it will also speak to what you can and can't write off, right? So we just talked about, like, what are the applicable deductions? How do I even learn to think about this? And once I know what I need to keep track of, what are some good ways to organize it so that it doesn't become this huge task that I'm like dreading dealing with? Right? We don't want that. We want you to do it little by little as you go, have a system and a place for this stuff to live so that you're confident that you've done a good job of keeping it up, and that when it comes time for taxes, you know, I've got everything together. And then last and probably most importantly, we definitely spend a lot of time talking about tax planning, which is, you know, one way to think of it would be tax planning is what you do in order to know how much of the money you've earned so far needs to be saved to go toward taxes and potentially sent in to the government in advance to help offset your tax bill, right? So we talk, there's a whole section talking about tax planning. And again, depending on the kind of legal structure you have going on, what that looks like for you, but you'll get recommendations about how to estimate how much of that to set aside. Because that's a super common thing we see with clients, especially new folks coming to us for the first time, is nobody's ever talked to them about this. They really have no sense of how much to set aside. Sometimes they've set aside way too much money, which is okay. That's not a bad place to be, other than like it means they've been living on really low dollars, you know, every month.
Yeah.
Trying to set aside this huge nest egg that might be too much. But you know, even sadder are the folks who come and maybe didn't realize, like, oh, I actually have to account for not just 15% of, I actually have to account for not just 15% of federal income tax and 5% of state income tax. That's 20. But there could be another 15% of Social Security and Medicare taxes that get added to that. That's self-employment tax. And now all of a sudden that 20% became 35, and oh, I did not see that coming. And so again, it's about being aware of this stuff, kind of coming at it heads up and knowing what is coming and knowing how to plan for it. So we try to give you as much information as possible for you to be able to manage those expectations.
Wonderful.